the gigafactory that Musk built in Reno, 3 miles over the border between California and Nevada. Well, why did he put that there? Same reason. You could build it. You can build it without endless rancor and wrangling with the regulators. And so this is the worry about California remaining a innovation leader.
So what does this mean for average Californians if these innovative jobs or the investments are going somewhere else? What does it mean to us?
Who's going to fund your schools? Who's going to buy your house when you decide to retire if nobody can afford it? These are real bread and butter issues. You might say, oh, isn't it great? People are moving out. We'll have less traffic on the 405 freeway. Isn't that great? Well, no, actually, because we're not talking about the number of people moving out. We're talking about the quality of people that are moving out. So the things that you get in your life that are supported by people who make better than average pay, restaurants, movie theaters, the arts, these are things that if the people who can afford to contribute to these places move out to these kinds of industries, move out, what's your quality of life going to be? If people decide, hey, you know what, we're going to move out, we're not going to put money into our schools, either private schools or public schools, because we're going to be moving someplace else, what's the quality of education going to be like? So it cuts very deeply into everybody's day-to-day lives.
Now, Marshall, when was it that I know that you guys have been studying this for a while, this exodus, and I was thinking maybe things are changing, but when was it that you guys figured out that this trend is happening?
First of all, a big shout out to my research collaborator, Dr. Ken Murphy at UCI. He and I created the data set for this. We actually were originally funded by the CEO Leadership Alliance of Orange County, which is a terrific organization, which brings together the CEOs of the top organizations in the county. They were very worried a decade ago about what they were seeing in terms of the inability to attract talent into the area because of high costs of housing. So they asked us...
Even a decade ago.
A decade ago, they were thinking about this.
Because now it's almost doubled since a decade.
Right. And if you talk to these people, you know, that's the first thing they talk about is how do I get people to stay, which is kind of tough. 2/3, the last data I saw at UCI was that 70% of the graduates from UCI have to move out of the area. You are a USC graduate.
USD, yeah.
Okay, so USD made its reputation on being able to build the ecosystem of San Diego based on graduates coming out of there. USC, the private school in California, same thing, right? The networks that they built were built from graduates who decided to stay here, stay in the region, and continue to contribute to it. Well, what happens if all your people get exported out? That's not a good thing. That's the seed corn argument, right? That's the people who can potentially contribute to your future success are moving out. So we started studying the advanced industry picture and created a data set together with Ken and I and Dr. Doty and Dr. Sphere at the G. Gary Anderson Center for Economic Analysis at Chapman, that looks at the performance of people in terms of jobs, wages, and looks at the performance of companies in advanced industries. And we've been seeing these trends. And then when you add in the census data, which comes officially every 10 years, but in fact they do updates, that data that you were talking about with a slight uptick in California is coming from the estimates of the census since 2020. So you think about it, well, we had a lot of people leave during COVID. So maybe some of them are coming back. But again, I don't look at this as a long-term trend. I look at this as maybe a marginal correction.
After new presidency, President Trump is there now, and there's going to be some of the manufacturing could come back. There's a lot of talk about manufacturing coming back, but is California going to get a share of that? Or do you think it will go to other states? And are manufacturing jobs good jobs for California?
Well, manufacturing jobs in general are good jobs for middle-class people. They pay higher. They don't necessarily require the same educational level as professional jobs. So manufacturing jobs are good. I mean, the issue has historically been that the state has associated manufacturing jobs with pollution and with bad environmental impact. And so they've kind of consciously said, we don't want that here. And there are jobs in manufacturing that are dirty jobs, that don't help the planet in that regard. But a lot of them, especially in the digital world that California competes in, are pretty clean. They're clean tech jobs. Putting chips on computer boards is not a highly polluting kind of a thing. So I think we need to revisit that from a state perspective and say, well, what do we mean by manufacturing jobs and how do we get that back? And then, of course, if you extend manufacturing to things like making television shows or making movies, which is a manufacturing process, we don't call it that, but that is what it is, we're kind of having the things are not looking really good in that department. But your question about, are we going to get the share of manufacturing jobs? No, I don't think we will. I do think that we'll see some reshoring, and I think that people will come back to the United States to make some stuff, not all.